Okay, this video is to help anyone who needs to redo their graphing quiz. I'll go through the quiz question by question and you're welcome to follow along. The numbers will all be different, obviously. You can redo this quiz as often as you need to get the score that you're happy with. There's 20 questions. This first question, write an ordered pair for the location of the bank. So our bank is right here. Okay, ordered pair is always x comma y, just like it says right here. Okay, so what's my x? X is this axis right here, and so my x is 7, comma, what's my y? My y is 1. So that's all I need to do there is put in the 7 comma 1. And that's how you do number 1. Number 2 is the same thing, only now it's all 4 quadrants. So what are we looking for? It wants us to locate the location of burn. So burn is right here. Okay, and now with that we see our point right here, and our x always comes first. Our x is 1. Okay, right there, and our y is -3. Okay, so it's always x first and then y. Number 3, using the pencil plot the point 1 comma -2. Now remember, just like 1 and 2, it's always x comma y. So this first number is our x. This one is our y. Okay? So we take this and we say, all right, where do we want our x? We want x at 1, right here. Where do we want our y? We want y at -2. So we see where those two come together, and we see a point right here where they fit together. So that's where we put our pencil. So we go to 1 down to -2, we put a point. And so whatever it is, this is always your x, this is your y. And this line right here is your x, and this line right here is your y. Okay? Number 4, this one, it just simply wants you to plug these numbers in for x. Okay, so we're going to go through and say, all right, we have 5 plus 3 times 1. We're just going to plug in that first one right there in for x. So what is 3 times 1? That's 3. What's 3 plus 5? That's 8. Okay, now we got 5 plus 3 times 2. And always do the multiplication first. What's 3 times 2 is 6. 5 plus 6 is 11. Now plug in a 3. 5 plus 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 plus 5 is 14. And 5 plus 3 times 10. 3 times 10 is 30, plus 5 is 35. So that gives us each one of the answers piece by piece. We have 8, 11, 14, and 35. Just plug them in. Make sure you do it in parentheses. Always follow the order of operations. Number 5, graph the line y equals 2x. Now, to graph a line, we want it in y equals mx plus b, where the m is my slope, and the b is my y-intercept. Now we see right here I have my slope, but I don't have my y-intercept. It's missing. Whenever that y-intercept is missing, it's always just 0. It's y equals 2x plus 0. Okay? And that tells us where we're putting our very first point. Right here at 0, 0, where y is 0. That's our y-intercept. Now what's our slope? Our slope is 2. Whenever you have a whole number, just draw a line and put a 1. Now if you ever need help remembering the top number, just say the top number always goes up. It's up. It's on top. Up. Always goes up. I don't know, how you can remember, but you've got to somehow remember that the top number is how far up or down I go. The bottom number is side by side. So over here I've got 2 over 1. So from this point right here, I'm going to go up 2 and then over 1. Positive 2, positive 1. How do I know which ones are positive? Well, look at these numbers. They're positive. These numbers are positive. These numbers are negative. These numbers are negative. So that gives me, a good idea of what's positive, what's negative. Number 6. Y equals mx plus b again. It's in that format. So that means this part right here, the minus 5, is my y-intercept. That means I'm going to put my first part of the line right there at negative 5. So there's my point right there at negative 5. And I'll even just draw it so it's easier to see. So my first point's right there at negative 5. And my slope is negative 2. Now remember, it's always got to be a fraction, so if it's a whole number, you just draw a line, put a 1. Now this negative can go with either number. It can go with the 2 or the 1. If it goes with the 2, we will go down 1, or down 2, over 1. Or if it's with the 1, we go positive 2 and negative 1. And you see how those are the exact same line. So we would just graph that line from there. So here's there's our point. Let's see. So there's our first point right there, the first point we put in. And the second point, we go down 2 over 1, or up 2 and over 1, and that's the same line. Number 7. Number 7 is still in the y equals mx plus b format, where b is our y-intercept. So our y-intercept is at positive 3. So I'm going to put a point right there at positive 3. And from that positive 3, from that point, remember that's my starting point, I have my slope, which is up and down, or rise over run. So my change in y, which is up and down, over my change in x, which is sideways. This negative right here can go with either number. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to put it with the 3 this time. And that tells me from this point, I go up 1, okay, positive 1. So from this point I go up 1 and then negative 3. Just like that. And then I can just connect those 2 dots. Remember, rise over run. Okay, that's my slope. That's what slope is. Number 8. We want it to be y equals mx plus b. We see that this is not in that format. And that means we got to do one of two things. We can either solve for y, or we can do the cover-up method. Let's do it both ways just so we can see it both ways. Y minus 3x equals 3. I'm solving for y. So my box goes around y, and now I need to get everything out. Remember, everything in the box is times or divide. Everything outside the box is plus or minus. So it's outside the box, so I need to do the opposite. That's minus 3x, so I'm going to plus 3x to both sides, leaving me with y equals, the x's go away, and I have a positive 3x and a positive 3. And I want the x's to come first, right? Because that's the format that I want. And so that tells me, and again, we have a whole number, so I just draw a line and put a 1 for the slope. That tells me that I'm starting at positive 3, and then I'm going up 3 and over 1. So from 3, I'm going up 1, 2, 3, and over 1, just like that. Now the other way to solve that is to do the cover-up method. Y minus 3x equals 3. Now I want to know where what y equals and what x equals. So when I have the y, I get rid of the x. And that leaves me with y equals 3. I just cover up the x because I want to know when x is 0, what is y? Y is 3. So that's my y-intercept. Now if I rewrite it without the y instead, I have negative 3x equals 3. Okay, now I'm just covering up the y this time. And that leaves me with that 3x equals 3. Sorry, it's crossed off. You can't see it very well. But here I'm solving for x now. So I'm going to divide by negative 3, divide by negative 3, and I have x equals negative 1. And if you see right there, crosses right there at x equals negative 1. So we've got our 3 and our negative 1. If we plot those points, that would also help us graph the line. So hopefully that helps you with number 8. Number 9. We want it in y equals mx plus b, but it doesn't look like that. Something's missing. We're missing the y. There's no y in it. That tells me that it will never cross the y. Okay? It will be parallel to the y-axis. If there's no y in the equation, there's no y in the answer. Okay? So if there's no y, we got to find where x equals negative 5. X equals negative 5 right there. So the line starts right there, and it has to be parallel to the y-axis. So it's going to just go up just like the y-axis right there at negative 5. Now if there were no x, then it would be parallel to x. So right there at negative 5, and it doesn't matter where I put that other point as long as it makes the line parallel. Number 10. Here we want the y-intercept and the x-intercept. So we ask ourselves, where does it cross the x-axis? Right there at negative 2. So that means the x-intercept is negative 2. Where does it cross the y-axis? It crosses right here at 4. So that would mean my y-intercept is 4. And that's all you have to do there, is just find out where it crosses and put those numbers. Number 11. Okay. 6x plus 4y equals negative 24. Now this requires the cover-up method, so I'm going to write it as two pieces, okay? So first I'm going to cover up the x and write it as 4y equals negative 24. Then I'm going to cover up the x, or excuse me, the y, and write it again as 6x equals negative 24. So all I'm doing is covering up one. So here I covered up the y, and notice all I have left are the 6x's equals negative 24. Or if I cover up the x's, all I have left are 4y equal 24. Now with that in mind, all we need to do is solve each one of them. Here I'm going to divide by 4, divide by 4. It's always going to be divide. Y equals, because the 4's are gone, what does y equal? It equals negative 24 divided by 4, which is negative 6. And then I solve for x. Divide by 6, divide by 6. Again, it's always division. So that's going to leave me with x because the 6's go away there. And negative 24 divided by 6 equals negative 4. So my x-intercept is negative 4 because that's what x equals. Okay, so the x-intercept goes right there where x is. And the y-intercept is going to be negative 6 because that's what y equals. And that's how you find the intercepts. Just cover up the pieces that you don't want. Now here we have the x-intercept and we have the y-intercept. Well, what's my x-intercept? My x-intercept is negative 9. So that means I'm going to put the first dot where x equals negative 9. Where's my y-intercept is negative 5. So I'll put the next dot where y equals negative 5. And that's my answer. Just put the dots on the x-axis and the y-axis. Number 13. Again, we want x-intercept, y-intercept. So we have 3x plus 6y equals negative 18. Let's solve it both different ways. So the first time I'm going to cover up the y, leaving me with just 3x plus 6y. Oh, excuse me, I covered up the y. 3x equals negative 18. And that happened because I covered up the 6y. It's no longer there. Can't see it. Leaving me with just 3x equals negative 18. Okay. Now to find the y, I'm going to cover up the x. So I'm going to cover up the x's, leaving me with just positive 6y equals negative 18. Now we divide by 3, divide by 3, because we want that x by itself, giving us x equals negative 6. So on my x-axis, I'm going to put a point right there at negative 6. And my other one, I'm solving for y. So I'm going to divide by 6, and I see that y equals negative 3. So y is going to go right down here to negative 3. I keep missing it. Okay, right there at negative 3. And we're just going to connect the two dots. Right there. Right there. And right there. I don't know why I keep bumping extra dots. So again, my x is negative 6. So that's what I put right here on X. And my Y turned out to be negative 3. So that's what goes right there on negative 3. And that's also what I put in here. My X was negative 6. And my Y was negative 3. Number 14, what was the least donation amount in a month? Okay, so right here, it seems like that's the lowest. The least is the lowest. So September, we had about 2,200. It's right between 2,100 and 2,300. So we're just looking for the lowest when it says the least. The most is the highest. When did the donations have the greatest increase? So here it decreased, so that doesn't count. Here it goes up a tiny bit. But here it goes up a lot. So from October to November, it goes up a lot. You're just looking for the greatest increase or the greatest decrease or whatever it's asking for. Number 15, excuse me. Picture this as your money in a bank. And here's your days of the week. So we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever. What's happening to your money here? If this is your balance, your money's going up, right? You're adding money. So you have a positive balance or a positive increase. Okay? Now if we look here, again, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, what's happening with your money here? Nothing. It's not changing at all. It's not going up. It's not going down. It's got a zero change. You're not adding anything. You're not subtracting anything. Okay. Now, Monday through Sunday or whatever. Now, right here on this day, notice it goes up infinity and down infinity at the exact same time. So in one day you had an increase of infinity and a decrease of infinity. What does that mean? Well, I don't know. It's not positive. It's not negative. It's both. It's not zero, but can I have both increase and decrease at the exact same time? No, I don't have a definition for that, so it's undefined. It's not allowed. And here, it's going down. So when I go down, I'm subtracting money, or that's a negative. So that would be a negative. Number 16, we just want the slope. Find the slope. The slope, again, is just how far we go up or down over how far we go right or left. So from here, we're going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we went down 6, and we're going to go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we went over 5. By going down, you see the numbers are going towards negative, so it's negative 6. And by going that way, to the right, we see it's all going positive, so we see positive 5. And so our solution is negative 6 over 5. That's our slope. In this one, we want to find slope of 2 points. Well, to do that, we do negative 5, 3, write them on top of each other. 7, 9, and then subtract them. And we want our answer to be y on top, x on bottom. So let's do the y's. Remember, this is x, y. What's 3 minus 9? That's negative 6. It's negative 5 minus 7. That's negative 12. The negatives will cancel out, giving me 6 over 12, which is the same thing as 1/2. And so that's my slope, is 1/2. Don't forget to simplify. And also don't forget, y is always going to be on top and x is always going to be on bottom. You want the change in y over change in x. Number 18, we're given the y-intercept. The y-intercept is -5. So I'm going to put a point right there at -5. Then we're given a slope of 1 over 3. So from here, I'm going to go up 1 and over 3. And that's my next point. So if you remember, y-intercept is always where you begin. And the slope is always rise, or how far it goes up or down, over run, how far it goes left or right. Number 19, this type of question deals with another point that's not 0, 0. Well, you're going to treat it exactly the same. So my starting point is 1, 3. So my starting point is 1, 3. Remember, x, y. Now from here, I'm going up 2 and over 3. Up 1, 2, over 1, 2, 3. Just like that. And then I connect my points. There's my line. And finally, number 20. This is an inequality. I'm going to treat it the same as a line, though. I'm going to graph it. So here's my y-intercept. Remember, y equals mx plus b, my y-intercept. So I know it's going to cross right there at -5. So I'm going to put a point right there at -5. And then my slope is -3. Well, I need that to be over 1. Anytime you have a whole number, just put it over 1. So from here, from my starting point, my y-intercept, I'm going to go down 3, 1, 2, 3, because that's a -3. So down 1, 2, 3, and then over 1. And there's my other point. So here's my line. Now I ask myself, is it dashed or solid? And there is a line, so there is a fill. We fill it in. It's a solid line. And then we ask, is it greater than or less than? Where do we shade? Less than, with y over here, you always shade down. With y over here, if it's greater than, you always shade up. Or just plug in a 0 and a 0 for x. -3 times x is 0. Or -3 times 0 is 0. So we have 0 is less than or equal to, what's left? -5. Is 0 less than or equal to -5? The answer is no, it is not. So that means 0, 0 is not part of the shaded area, so I'm going to shade the opposite side. Or if you think about it this way, we had less than, so we shade down. And that is why that side got shaded. Hopefully this helped. Let me know if you have any questions. Take it until you're happy with your score. Let me know when you've got a score you're happy with, and I'll change it for you.